Hello and welcome to Newsworthy Stories with Jacqueline Jimenez. We have had an unprecedented week or so in politics. First, the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump, and now President Biden stepping out of the race for president in 2024. The voters are going to have a big decision on how to choose the best candidate. And now there's an app that might help. So, joining me now to talk more about the Best Candidate app is Gino Herring. Thank you for joining me, Gino.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Jacqueline. I appreciate the opportunity to speak about nonpartisan voter education.
Yeah, Gino has been spent over 2 decades working for as the voter education director for the Broward County Elections Office. So he knows how to educate people on getting the candidate. I mean, I think it's one thing to get you to the elections, right? To go out and vote, but then you have this like, well, who am I supposed to vote for? So what does this app do and how does it help the voter and apparently the politician too, right?
Absolutely, that's right. So we're trying to make an all-inclusive one-stop shop for voter education and the whole process of voting locally. So in your town where you are right now, we're trying to put together a mobile application that lets you pull up a profile and actually see your candidates that are going to be on your ballot specifically to you. Wouldn't that be great? And also as a candidate to manage your campaign on that same mobile app. And so you're guessing, well, how does this all come together? Well, both the voter and the candidate can create individual profiles and they can actually speak together. Communication, that's the gap that we're trying to bridge. So that is the ultimate goal. And we're putting that together right now as far as a test site. It's active, but the goal is to get that going, to get that tested, run it smoothly, and then introduce the mobile application once it's ready.
So talk to me a little bit about how this Best Candidate app works now. It's first of all, it's nonpartisan,
Right.
right? So talk to us about how important it is that it's nonpartisan voter education. And what is it that you have found in your time at the elections office that voters are lacking? What don't we know that we should know?
Well, let's start with that term first and foremost, that nonpartisan term. That's the most confusing, perhaps, in our dialogue and speaking with folks. We all know that we've seen the ballot issues come on the ballot. You don't even understand what those things mean. You need a master's degree, doctorate degree to read those things. I can't understand it most of the time. And so I've learned that you've got to be able to speak the language of people. And that means to go directly to them, stop using all these crazy terms. But it's the nonpartisan thing, the non-involvement in a specific party that makes the education specific to everybody. Nonpartisan means not related to a party. And so the information we're providing is how to vote, where to vote, and when to vote, specifically in a nutshell. And that's what makes this app unique because there's, different apps that have information on them, but they're usually leaning to a side, left or right. This
Right.
involves the process of elections as they refer to every individual.
So, what is voter education? I know that you've been a part of it. Is there something that you said to yourself, okay, you know what, this is what's missing most? I mean, what was that trigger point for you where you decided that, you know what, it's just not enough. Voter education isn't enough. I need people to have it in their hands.
That's it. That you hit it on the head right there. When you're standing in line and you're trying to figure out who you're going to vote for, I can remember just walking those lines and looking at the details. That's it right there, as a matter of fact. And the consensus is that I don't want to go in there and make a bad decision. And you always see people walking out of there, boy, what did I just do? I don't know who I just voted for. The name sounded good. I think I knew that person in middle school. All these different kinds of things. And I just was saying to myself over and over again. And after elections, we would go back and sit down. Okay, how can we improve upon what we just saw and witnessed? How can we improve these circumstances? Not for us, but for the actual voter that's walking in that booth. Everybody had a cell phone. And it was very clear to me that everyone was looking at their cell phones and just shaking their heads. And in the meantime, folks are handing out palm cards and giving them information from the parties and such. And I said, what if I can put that into that? What if I can put that information into the cell phone? What if I can make something specific and unique to each and every one of those folks that's standing in line? And then what if I can reduce the line size? And what if I can help the candidate too? All these things we mind mapped all together. And we figured out we could probably do it if we had millions of dollars but as a government or government agency, but that's kind of not possible. We just don't have those resources. And so the entrepreneurial experience kicked in with me, and I said, you know what if we can make something every individual, regardless of who party, what you're doing, it can help everyone together all at once. And that's how the idea came. We saw years and years of folks talking about, I'm not going to be happy when I walk out of that booth, and sure enough, they're not happy. How can we fix that? And the cell phone is something that everyone has. I've seen 12-year-olds, 7-year-olds with cell phones. Wouldn't it be great if we could not have them be used as uh, this confusion of information all together thrown at you, but a tool instead? Use this thing that we have as a tool. And so Best Candidate kind of was birthed out of that concept to have voter education in this so that everyone can benefit.
Well, so what kind of information now? So this is the actual test site right now, and people can actually go on this site. What are they going to find? And is it okay? Is what they find today? If they go on this site, what are they going to find? And then how does that benefit you or help you to get to that point where this is, full on?
So what they're going to see now as a test site, as a website, they're going to have an opportunity to look at voter information as it pertains to them in their county. So we're looking at the Tri-County area, which is Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach counties. And so we have information pertaining to those jurisdictions. And things like your voter status. You want to check and make sure your voter status is up to date. You want to see what your sample ballot looks like. We want to know if this candidate is going to be on my ballot, those kinds of things. Those are questions you can answer by going into our test site right now because it pulls up information, not that we've created, but the government specifically has created from the state passed down to the county. And the counties have their own website. That's where we pull the information from. So you're not getting it off of a post on Facebook. You're not getting a post on Twitter. You're not getting opinions from someone that you don't know. You're getting it directly from the source. And that's the link that we're missing. So we're putting it all together. Eventually, the whole state, eventually, hopefully, the whole country, but in one concentrated, location, a one-stop shop, if you will. You'll see voter education right now. You'll see the amendment issues. There's 6 of them on the state ballot right now. 6 of them. We don't know what they are. I know what they are, but we're putting them on your ballot so you can see, but in that app also so you can access them right now. And then invite others to come and see as well. You can actually take that link and put it on Facebook somewhere and say, see, this is what the real deal is. It's coming from the state website, from the federal website, not because someone, made a real good deciphering of what those words mean, but here's what the real deal is. And that's what people need, the information is accurate.
So if they go on this site, what would you say is the first place that they should click on, or one of the most, valuable things? As we're still kind of early in what happens in the races for president, obviously. But to me, it's really the people who support the president or your local elections that really matter. So where should they go to make sure that they are able to vote? Which button would they be clicking on?
So the first thing they'll do is create a profile, and that's what makes it unique. So you create your own profile. And then when you do that, you'll be able to see different things like news articles. You'll be able to see things like your voter education toolbox. And when you click on the toolbox, that's what I was talking about. You'll be able to go in and find information about your specific ballot. And at that point, the information that's local to you, right there in your location, your city, your zip code, comes and populates to your profile. Right now, it's just a test site, like we said. But when we get it tailored to the application, the mobile app, when you register to vote for the first time, what you do is you put your actual home address on that application. That's how your voter district is determined, what's going to be on your ballot. You could literally live across the street from somebody else. They'll have a different ballot than you because they might be having a line of jurisdiction drawn right down that road that separates you two. And so we've had questions in the past. Well, that guy lives across the street. I know I saw his ballot. It's different from my ballot. My ballot's different. Well, that's because his jurisdiction line is right there between you all. So everyone has their own ballot. So everyone gets their own different information as well. When you log on, that's what you'll get. Something respectful to your specific voting district. And that's kind of what we want. We don't want lines of communications crossing. We don't want the guy that lives in Deerfield or works in Palm Beach County thinks you can vote in Palm Beach County. You can't. You've got to go back to Deerfield. Things like that is educational that we're missing. There's a void in that. Folks moving from California to Florida for the first time, they've got to re-register in the state of Florida now. Their actual registration in California is no longer valid. They've got to come here and re-register. That's education that's missing. Also, specifically, you said a little earlier, your local elections are perhaps the most important elections because those elections consist of items that are on the ballot or even people are running for office that make laws and affect change right there in your backyard. If 17% of the population is showing up, that means 83% of the people didn't even have a choice in what happens. The potholes still stay there. The lights don't turn on outside anymore. You know, you got storm drainage problems. If you actually showed up and had a choice in decision making, you can be a part of those decisions and make change. But we tend to not hear about those dates. We tend not to not know about them. Now we can actually broadcast those kinds of things that happen all the time locally.
You know what, you just brought something to my mind that the one thing I hear, as somebody who is, when I turned 18, don't ask me why, but
Mm-hmm.
the first thing I wanted to do was go and register to vote. I just thought that was the coolest thing in the world, right? And my son, he's turning 18 soon. And I was like, oh, you're going to go register to vote, you know? And, that's just something that's ingrained in me. And then I don't even know where it came from. But one of the things that I hear often is my vote doesn't count. Or, the electrical college does all the work. Where does my vote come in? Can you please break that down in any way that especially on this incredible election we're coming up on? Wow, I can't even, as not only was I a news producer for over 20 years, but I was also the public affairs producer. So I lived politics,
Yeah.
back in the day. I would have been like, we all over this, right? Everything that's happening. So if you could break that down, and even then, that part of it, the electoral college, and that was like, what?
Yeah, so it's again it's something that's not discussed. Civics and education they're almost non-existent at some point. It's not by fault or by way of the teachers or the administration. It's just not a priority. You've got so many different things going on. But if we prioritize this, we put in an application. We'll talk about the electoral college. We'll talk about the glossary terms that we need to know. We'll talk about the fact that in the state of Florida, you can pre-register at 16 years old. In Broward County, some counties, you'll get a birthday card on your election on your birthday with your voter registration at 18 years old. And so those are the things that we're doing in Broward anyway. I know that. But let's talk about the electoral college versus the total population of voting ballots that are received. They're two different things. Sometimes people think, and they understand that well, if the electoral college is going to actually make the decision for me, why should I even bother to go vote? Well, the overall total population vote does influence the electoral college. However, there are two different bodies. And by that I mean you take a total number of votes and you have delegates in each state. So every state has a delegate for a certain population of people. And that's why you see the conventions, you see Florida bringing 27 delegates, or whatever the number is. California bringing 32. That's because the population is a certain number. So you have to have a parameter and one delegate per population size. And so the electoral college comes into play because later on, you may have a discrepancy, I should say, as far as the actual number of votes that are being counted versus the absentee ballots or voting by mail ballots are still overseas, haven't been counted yet. All these other factors that come into it. For the electoral college, you have a delegate opportunity for folks that, okay, I know a certain percentage of people are in Florida. Here's my delegates here. That's what we're going to use to tailor it because everyone has voted in Florida that's done, and the total amount goes to this candidate or that candidate. And that's how the delegates vote based on what that total population is. It's a little bit more detailed than that what I
Right,
described,
right. Yeah.
but to generalize it, you break it down as far as population, and you have representatives for that population in the state.
So, reaching out to our legislators, is that something that people should do to say, hey, we want this, or to get them to understand what is actually important to them? Is it a good idea to do that or not really?
Well, I think first steps should be to make sure you understand that your vote does count. It absolutely does. There have been several elections in recent history where a few votes decided that race, decided who wins. Even in Broward County recently, just a few votes, and a state rep or U.S. rep or whoever it is gets that seat because some folks didn't show, or some folks that might have voted one way but didn't go decided not to go. And so we always talk about the importance and the apathy, and that stems from the whole confusion, the whole gray areas, the whole onslaught of information. People are staying home. People are not wanting to go and be a part of it. There's so many contributing factors of that as well. The mudslinging, the fake news, the I don't trust this candidate, that candidate, or I don't know anything about them, or true what they say about them. All of that put into a pot and stirred around, and it creates apathy. And if we can get away from that and give people the information that they need and deserve as citizens, then hopefully that electorate becomes an informed electorate. An informed electorate we know creates a better, stronger democracy. That's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I however my vote counts, I'm voting.
At least you had
Okay.
a say in it. Yeah, you had a
I
say
had
in it.
to say, I'm not going to give up my vote, because someone goes, "Oh, your vote doesn't count." Well, I beg to differ on that, because they wouldn't be fighting, they wouldn't be campaigning, they wouldn't be in our faces every time it's time to vote if that wasn't the case. So
Quick
it does
story.
count for something,
Quick story.
right?
Jacqueline, absolutely. I had a student. She said she wasn't going to register to vote. This was in high school when she was in high school.
Hmm.
And she was a part of the high school voter registration drive that we did in Broward County. So she was one of the ambassadors of her school that actually got her peers to register to vote. And she ended up putting that information on her college entrance exams or entrance application. She got into a great school. And she said when she got there, she turned 18 after she got there. And she said she started receiving all this mail from people. All this, oh, vote for our party, join us, do this, do that. And she said, I called my mom and said, Mom, guess what? I am important. Now
That's
I'm
right.
somebody that people view me as someone because I have a voter registration ID card.
Because your vote is your voice, right?
Yeah, yeah. That realization hit home, and then I share that because that shared story is to enlighten people. Not that you're going to get mail and stuff in the mail, but because you are now a part of the community. You're now interactive. You're now an adult. Really, it's the first step in adulthood. I call it is to actually have a voter registration because now you're going to be involved. Your informed voter is the next step. So now let's get to the information. So you hit it on the head when you said people don't know what to do or they want to stay home and because their vote doesn't count. That's keeping the numbers to 17% turnout in a local election. And they don't realize that 87% now are controlling the election. They just didn't realize they passed their ballot off and put someone else's name onto it by not showing up.
Yep, that's it. I tell you what, I think that I wanted to encourage you because I actually met Gino last year. I was speaking, and he was a part of a cohort with the Kaufman program, and he was talking about this app. And the moment he told me that, and I was like, "Well, that's a story." That's the exact words that I used was that's a story. And now here we are, where you've got the test site up, and I want people to try it and use it because I know that that information's there, and I think that you put it in a way that it's easier to navigate than maybe going to the regular necessarily the elections office, which I believe that's why you kind of created it.
Yeah.
But so that people can just go right to the areas that they need. There have been changes in making sure that uh, your voter registration is not expired. I heard about some things earlier this year, and I was like, "Wow!" Yeah, and you might not even realize it. Like, no notification is going to go out to you. You'll find out when you get to the polls that your registration might be expired because you may have moved and didn't say
Notify.
something about it, right? So all those things are important, and I think that if you have questions, you've got Gino's email running across the
There you
bottom there. You
go.
know, you're on blast right now. But go and try the Best Candidate app. And then if there's something there that you don't see, please let him know
Please, we're
so
looking.
that, he can incorporate that in the app. But this is going to be such a critical year for information, and knowing how to find the most accurate information, I think, is what's important. I just want to encourage you to research your candidates, find out who's running, find out what they've already done. Don't just believe what someone says, or like Gino said, oh, that name sounds cool, or that sounds like somebody that, or, whatever the reasons why you would pick a candidate. Research them. That is the one thing I have learned to do, uh, is research my candidates, and my judges, and my all of that,
Yeah,
because they're the ones who are deciding the future of a, a lot of things in our community and a lot of the people. And if you don't at least take a moment and decide what's important to you, or what a candidate should actually have, then don't be surprised when nothing changes. Uh,
exactly. Exactly. Hit it on
you
the head.
know,
I think
uh,
one last thing to say about what we're doing in the years of research and data we've been collecting. Two things are remaining or just ringing in our ears. Number one is that for the most part, everyone wants better candidates. Even candidates want to be better. That's why they're running. They want to be the best candidate. And everyone deserves better information. That second part, that deserves part, is because there is plenty of information out there. But that's the problem. It's all coming at you as an avalanche of stuff, and you got to decipher it on your own. You got to figure this out. Because in the state of Florida and every state in the union, there is what's called a rights and responsibilities. And you, as a voter, have both rights and responsibilities. You have the right to a vote. But you also have the responsibility to get your information. And that's where we're falling short. We're falling short in the onslaught of information, whether it be red, blue, purple, right, wrong, fake. It's so much of it. And if we don't have civics as a priority in our education system, education as a whole as a priority, then we're left to our own devices. We're left to our own literal devices, and that's social media, and that's where most of it comes from. So our device is going to be nonpartisan in nature. It's going to be ethical. It's going to be no mudslinging. We're creating a culture of an ecosystem of election, and that ecosystem will be determined by what people want to see, what they want to do, what they want to interact with, who they want to interact with. A safe space for people to interact with like-minded folks, and that's hopefully what the culture will be like when we get this off the ground.
well, thank you so much for joining me, Gino. And, keep us posted, on what you need, and how it's going, so we can understand and how to use the app and better use it, or what else is available through it.
Thank you so much, Jacqueline. I appreciate the opportunity. Always great to meet with you and hear about what you got going on. So you've got doing great things.
Thank you. I appreciate your support.
Thank you. Thank you.